Welcome to this 365 Freedom Strategy session. Today we're breaking down the mechanics of visibility courage and why your brand's biggest bottleneck is your need to feel ready.
Right. And we're really acting as your internal strategic partners today.
Yeah, exactly.
We're pulling directly from the week 5 TrafficTracks materials. So for context, we are looking at this really fascinating stack of resources. There's a core blog post on visibility, a detailed video script, and then this specific email case study that honestly feels like it was written about me.
Oh, I totally agree. It's painfully relatable.
It really is. And our mission here is to challenge this massive assumption that holds, almost everyone back, which is this idea that you have to feel completely confident and have everything perfectly polished before you show up.
Right, because it's a pervasive issue. Founders and creators, they treat hesitation as a form of quality control.
Yes. Quality control, that's exactly how we justify it.
Right. They tell themselves they're just maintaining high brand standards by waiting, by editing, by refining. But if we look closely at the framework laid out in the TrafficTracks materials, we see that this is actually a fundamental misunderstanding of how visibility is generated.
It's completely backwards.
It is. It's not quality control. It's hiding. And it stems from this completely backwards understanding of the timeline of confidence.
The timeline of confidence, that phrase right there is exactly what I want to start with, because the core principle in these week 5 materials states, and I'm quoting this directly, visibility grows the moment you decide to be seen before you feel ready.
Before you feel ready.
Right. And let me just be honest here. My natural instinct, and I think the instinct of almost anyone listening to this right now, is the exact opposite of that.
Oh, 100%.
My instinct is to wait until I feel, completely ready, completely bulletproof, absolutely certain before I hit publish on anything.
And that instinct is exactly what the materials identify as the confidence myth.
The myth.
Yeah. Let's break down why it feels so natural to wait. When you look around your industry, you see these highly visible, successful founders and creators, right? You see their output.
You see the final product.
Exactly. You see the polished consistency, the clear messaging, the authoritative delivery. And what happens is that your brain just reverse engineers a false timeline.
Right. You assume that because they look confident right now, they must have felt entirely certain and entirely confident before they started taking action.
Yes. It creates this sequence in your head. Like, okay, step 1, I need to acquire total confidence. Step 2, I need to get absolute clarity on my message.
Right, the perfect message.
Then step 3, I just wait for this magical feeling of readiness to wash over me. And only then, at step 4, do I actually take the action of being visible.
It sounds incredibly logical when you lay it out like that.
It does. It sounds like a responsible business plan.
Yeah.
But the text argues that this is just a trap.
It's a massive trap because you're waiting for a condition that the process itself just does not produce at the starting line. The reality of the situation, the actual operational reality of building a brand, is that visibility rarely begins from a place of certainty.
Almost never.
If you're sitting there waiting for certainty, you're going to be sitting there forever. And the materials make this profound point. The actual starting line is unease.
Unease.
Yes. Visibility begins in a moment of unease where you feel the friction, you feel the doubt, but you make the decision to show up anyway.
Wait, so let me make sure I'm fully grasping the implication here. Is the text actually suggesting that feeling unready is not a red flag?
That's exactly what it's saying.
Because when my stomach drops right before I post a raw thought, my brain just screams at me to stop. Are we saying that unease is actually the green light?
Yes. That is precisely the paradigm shift this framework is demanding.
Wow.
That discomfort, that slight hesitation, the shakiness you feel before sharing something real, that is the exact indicator that you are positioned where growth happens.
That's a huge reframe.
It is. Because the traditional timeline dictates that courage is something you get after you become confident. But the framework we're analyzing proves the opposite. Courage is the operational prerequisite.
You have to have it first.
Right. You deploy courage to eventually build confidence. You don't wait for confidence to suddenly appear.
That changes everything about how you approach your daily tasks.
And we should probably define what courage means in this specific context. Because we're not talking about, running into a burning building.
No.
The text defines visibility courage as the willingness to be seen while you are still learning. It's executing on a clear thought, even when that emotional state of readiness hasn't arrived.
Exactly. It's a strategic action. And without this specific acting in the face of unease, the entire mechanism of your brand's visibility just remains stalled.
It's stuck.
You cannot optimize a machine that you refuse to turn on.
I love that.
And you cannot build a visible presence if the prerequisite action is continually delayed by your demand for this illusion called certainty. So if you're listening to this right now, I want you to evaluate your own workflow. Look at your drafts folder. Think about the ideas you've outlined but never recorded.
We all have them.
We do. Think about the industry opinions you hold behind closed doors but never publicly defend. Where are you staying invisible simply because you're waiting to feel certain about every single word?
That is the essential audit every founder needs to perform today. Are you delaying your presence in the market because you believe there's some future date where you'll suddenly possess absolute clarity?
Which never comes.
It never comes. The text makes it very clear that staying invisible is a choice. You're choosing to wait for the perfect words. You're waiting for the unassailable argument.
You're waiting for an emotional state of invulnerability that simply does not exist for the creator who is actually pushing their boundaries.
Right. And think about the sheer exhaustion of that waiting game. I know exactly what that feels like.
Oh, it's draining.
Every time you withhold a message because you demand perfect certainty from yourself, you are bottlenecking your own growth. But worse than that, and this is key, you are starving your audience of the exact connection point they're looking for.
That's the real cost.
The confidence myth keeps you small. It convinces you that your lack of readiness is a unique personal flaw, when in reality, it's the universal starting condition for anyone expanding their reach.
Functionally, waiting for certainty is an impossible standard because the market itself is not certain. Your audience isn't looking for an omniscient leader who has all the final answers.
No, they're not.
They're looking for someone who is willing to navigate the uncertainty alongside them.
Exactly.
When you wait to feel perfectly ready, you're fundamentally disconnecting yourself from the reality of the human experience. The materials emphasize that if you refuse to be seen in the learning phase, you effectively refuse to be seen at all.
I think the best way to really understand this is to look at the microstory provided in that week 5 email source.
Oh, the email case study, yes.
Because this case study perfectly captures the paralysis we are talking about, and more importantly, it shows what happens when a founder finally breaks through it.
Let's get into that. The case study focuses on a creator who had been sitting on a specific message for weeks.
Weeks. Let's just analyze that time frame first. Weeks of hesitation.
It's a long time.
From a strategic perspective, holding back a single message for that long represents a massive drain on creative energy.
It really does. Imagine the mental bandwidth it takes to wake up every day, look at a draft, feel the urge to send it, and then talk yourself out of it.
Every single day.
It occupies space that should be going toward new ideas. And the text gives us the exact anatomy of her hesitation. She was holding back because she was afraid the message would feel, and I'm quoting the email here, too honest, too vulnerable, too different from what she usually shared.
Those 3 specific fears are the classic symptoms of what the materials call the unsteady voice.
The unsteady voice.
Let's examine too honest first. What does a founder actually mean when they fear a message is too honest?
That's a great question.
Usually it means the message contradicts the sanitized, frictionless facade they've built for their brand.
Yeah.
It means acknowledging a difficulty, maybe a nuanced truth, or a shifting perspective that just doesn't fit neatly into a traditional happy marketing soundbite.
It's the fear of breaking the illusion that you have it all figured out.
Precisely.
And that ties right into too vulnerable. Vulnerability here means removing the armor of the infallible expert and revealing the actual human being.
Right.
The creator in the story knew that publishing this message would expose her current, messy reality, not the polished history she usually presented. She was feeling the exact unease we were just talking about, and she let it dictate her actions for weeks.
And the third fear is particularly interesting. Too different from what she had always shared.
Oh, this one traps so many people.
Creators often become imprisoned by their own past content. They establish a specific tone or a specific lane, and any deviation feels like a catastrophic risk.
They don't want to lose what they've built.
They fear alienating their existing audience, but they forget that audiences are dynamic and they crave evolution.
Right.
The fear of being too different is ultimately a refusal to let the brand evolve to match the founder's current internal reality.
But she finally does it. She hits publish with that unsteady voice. And the text highlights a really vital technical distinction about what happened next.
This is the best part.
The immediate shift was not a mechanical algorithmic spike.
No.
The shift happened in her energy. Let's talk about that because that feels so much more real than just checking your follower count.
We are so conditioned to measure the success of a published event by the immediate data response, the likes, the impressions, the algorithmic reach.
The dopamine hits.
Exactly. But the materials argue that the primary, most crucial result of visibility courage is internal.
Internal.
When you finally release a message you've been withholding out of fear, you stop spending energy suppressing your actual beliefs.
That makes so much sense.
That mental bandwidth is returned to you. The shift in energy is the immediate guaranteed return on investment for an act of courage.
And you cannot fake that energy.
Yeah.
When a founder is operating in alignment with what they actually believe, free from the exhaustion of maintaining a highly edited persona, their entire delivery changes.
Complete changes.
Even if the words are exactly the same, the signal being broadcast is completely different. And this leads directly to the audience response outlined in the case study.
Yes. The text states the audience responded with clarity and warmth she never expected.
Clarity and warmth.
Let's analyze why that specific reaction occurred. It was not because she finally found the perfect lighting. It was not because her delivery was flawless. The materials are very clear here. It was the courage to show up even while she felt unsure. The audience responded to the willingness to be seen in the learning phase.
Clarity and warmth. Those are human responses, not algorithmic metrics. The audience felt the honesty, they felt the vulnerability, and they reciprocated. They recognized the unsteady voice, and they valued it more than the polished perfection they usually receive.
It proves that the audience is not demanding mastery from you, they're demanding humanity.
From a strategic perspective, this completely redefines what constitutes a high-performing piece of content.
It does. It throws the old metrics out the window.
If your goal is deep, loyal connection with your audience, flawless delivery is a secondary concern. The primary driver of that connection is the raw truth of the message and the willingness of the founder to stand behind it without a safety net.
The warmth the audience showed this creator was a direct validation of her courage.
But that warmth from the audience actually raises a really interesting contradiction.
What's that?
If people clearly love the raw truth so much, why do founders spend so much time obsessing over lighting, scripts, and editing? The materials call this the cult of polished perfection, and it feels like the ultimate form of self-sabotage.
It is the most significant operational waste in modern brand building.
Waste, that's a great word for it.
The cult of polished perfection demands that every public-facing artifact be scrubbed of any perceived flaw. Founders spend hours, sometimes days, adjusting lighting, rewriting scripts to remove any edge, and editing their thoughts until they're entirely safe and entirely forgettable.
They prioritize the packaging over the payload.
I am so guilty of this.
You too.
I can't tell you how many times I've tried to record a simple 60-second video and ended up doing 45 takes.
Oh, easily.
If I stumble on a single word, I stop and start over. I edit and edit until the final video is technically perfect, but completely devoid of any life.
And the email source provides a stark warning about this exact process. It warns against, and this phrase hits hard, editing yourself into a smaller version of who you are.
A smaller version. That's a devastatingly accurate description of how over-editing works.
Let's look at the mechanics of it. You start with a raw, powerful idea, a clear truth you've been considering. It has energy, it has an unsteady voice maybe, but it's real.
Right.
Then the editing process begins. First, you soften the vocabulary. If you wrote something definitive, you add qualifiers. Always becomes sometimes, must becomes might consider.
Right, you start hedging your bets.
Exactly. Second, you remove the personal stakes. If the original idea came from a painful lesson or a frustrating failure, you strip away the context to make it sound like abstract, objective advice.
We make it sterile.
Yes. Third, you anticipate every possible criticism and add disclaimers to preempt them, padding the core message until it is completely buried.
And what are you left with? You've successfully edited yourself into a safe version.
The completely safe version.
You've stripped the humanity and the impact from the brand's message. The irony is that in your attempt to be unassailable and perfect, you have become invisible. A message without edges cannot catch on anything. It slides right past the audience because it looks and sounds exactly like the million other safely edited, perfectly polished pieces of noise in their feed.
The text asserts a fundamental truth about market demand here. Audiences do not need a curated, perfectly lit version of a founder.
No.
Why? Because curated perfection is abundant and cheap.
Very cheap.
Anyone can use a filter. Anyone can hire a copywriter to sanitize a post. The curated version of a founder offers no differentiation and builds no trust because the audience is sophisticated enough to know it's a performance.
They don't need the performance. The text says they need the real message you've been holding back.
The real message.
The real message is the scarce resource. The real message is the one that contains the friction, the unease, the actual belief.
Yes.
When you withhold that message in favor of the polished version, you are depriving your audience of the exact value they're following you to receive. You are optimizing for safety at the expense of impact.
This brings us to a crucial technical concept mentioned in the blog post: honest signals.
Honest signals. Let's talk about that.
In the marketplace, authenticity acts as a powerful signal. When we talk about an honest signal, we're talking about communication that is difficult to fake and therefore highly credible.
Right.
The blog post states that when you share something honest, even though you feel exposed, that authenticity signals something profound to the audience.
It communicates that you are willing to stand behind your message even without perfect conditions.
That is so powerful.
It really is.
If I see a founder deliver a message with absolute slick perfection, I might admire the production value, but I don't necessarily know if they deeply believe the words or if they just memorized a good script.
Exactly.
But if I see a founder deliver a message with a slightly unsteady voice, perhaps looking a bit tired but with clear conviction, that signals that the message is so important to them, they couldn't wait for perfect conditions to share it.
Precisely. The willingness to bypass perfect conditions is the proof of belief.
Proof of belief.
It tells the audience, this truth matters more to me than my own comfort or my own image. That is a signal that cannot be artificially generated by a marketing team.
Never.
Visibility grows through these honest signals. The self-sabotage occurs when founders invest all their resources into eliminating the very friction that creates the honest signal in the first place.
I have to push back on that a little, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if I'm listening to this, my next thought is, okay, so I should just grab my phone while I'm frustrated, hit record without thinking, and rant about my industry. Doesn't showing up before you're ready risk making your brand look amateurish or even reckless? How do the sources reconcile that?
That is a critical distinction we need to make. When the materials criticize polished perfection, they are not advocating for careless noise.
Okay.
The text instructs founders to be bold, to show up before you feel ready, and to embrace the unsteady voice, but it does not say to be thoughtless.
Right.
There is a massive difference between taking a calculated, bold action and acting recklessly.
Okay, let's define those parameters clearly, because we don't want anyone listening to go sabotage their business today. What does being bold actually mean in this context?
According to the call to action and the blog post, being bold means sharing a clear thought that matters to you.
A clear thought.
It means reflecting what you actually believe. It's about sharing a simple truth you have been deeply considering, even if you are unsure how it will land.
So there's depth there.
Exactly. Notice the requirement for depth. A clear thought that matters to you implies that you have done the internal work. You've considered it. It is not a fleeting reactionary impulse.
So the preparation is internal, not external. You've prepared the thought, you just haven't polished the presentation.
That's the perfect way to phrase it.
Boldness is the decision to release that considered thought into the world without the protective layer of over-editing. You're taking a risk on the reception of the idea, not on the substance of the idea.
Exactly. You know the substance is valid because it reflects your actual belief. Let's contrast this with recklessness. Recklessness is abandoning substance entirely. Showing up with an unsteady voice does not mean showing up with an empty head.
That's a great line.
Recklessness is posting a highly emotional, unconsidered reaction just to generate noise. It's speaking authoritatively on subjects where you have no actual belief or experience.
Which happens a lot online.
All the time. But the text does not support that. The text advocates for sharing honest ideas.
I love how the text frames the instruction regarding polish. It's about stripping away the unnecessary polish that hides the core message. It's a reductive process.
Right, taking things away.
You're taking things away, the jargon, the disclaimers, the safety nets. Recklessness is additive, it adds chaos. Boldness removes the camouflage.
And when you strip away the safe vocabulary and the endless qualifiers, what remains must be a sturdy, honest idea.
Yes.
If you strip away the polish and find there was no idea there to begin with, that's when you realize you were relying on the packaging to compensate for a lack of substance.
The blog post gives this brilliant instruction. Let people witness the version of you that feels true.
Witness. Such a strong word.
It is. Witnessing requires a subject that is present and authentic. And allowing yourself to be witnessed requires deliberate intentionality. It's not an accident.
No.
You're intentionally choosing to lower the shield of polished perfection so the audience can see the human operating the brand.
That intentionality is what protects you from recklessness. When you share a simple message today that reflects who you are becoming, you're making a strategic choice about your brand's trajectory.
You're steering the ship.
You're aligning your public visibility with your internal evolution. Reckless posting has no trajectory. It's just a series of disconnected reactions. Bold posting, even when done before you feel completely ready, is always tethered to your core truth.
All right, so if boldness is sharing a clear, considered truth without the armor of perfect readiness and recklessness is sharing unconsidered noise, the goal is clear. Cultivate the boldness, eliminate the recklessness, and stop worshiping flawless delivery.
That's the formula.
The real question is, how does the listener actually implement this today? Because it's one thing to understand the theory, but it's another to stare at a blank screen and actually do it.
The materials provide a highly actionable strategy delivered as a core call to action.
Let's hear it.
The directive for the listener is immediate. Share one piece of content today that feels a little bold, a little honest, or a little outside your usual comfort zone.
Today?
Today. This isn't a theoretical exercise to be planned for next quarter. It's an operational requirement for today.
Let's break down the exact blueprint for that single message. If I'm the listener, what should I be writing right now?
Okay.
First, it must not be the safe version. It cannot be the draft you've edited 10 times to remove any potential friction.
Second, it must not be the overly edited version.
Right. Third, it must be a clear truth you have been considering. It's a truth that matters to you.
And fourth, it must reflect who you are becoming, not just who you have been in the past.
It's a simple blueprint, but it requires a high degree of internal honesty to execute. You have to actively resist the urge to sanitize the message before you hit publish.
You have to sit on your hands a bit.
You really do.
Wait.
You have to allow the unsteady voice to remain in the text or the video. When you execute this blueprint, you trigger what the blog post calls the compounding effect.
The compounding effect. The text says, the simple act of sharing it begins to reshape your presence.
Reshape your presence.
It doesn't just add to your content library. It fundamentally reshapes how you are perceived by your audience, and more importantly, how you perceive yourself.
That's a huge shift.
Visibility expands through small acts of courage. It's not about engineering one massive viral moment. It's about the steady, expanding footprint created by a founder who consistently chooses honesty over polish.
The most critical mechanic of this compounding effect is how it impacts the founder internally.
Yeah.
The text concludes with, visibility grows through courage, and courage grows each time you choose to be seen. Courage is not a finite resource that you deplete. It's a muscle that hypertrophies with use.
It gets stronger every time.
When you share that one bold piece of content today, you survive the unease. You realize that the lack of perfect readiness did not destroy you. In fact, it connected you more deeply with your audience.
That neurological shift is amazing to think about. That realization is what builds the courage for the next post. You learn that the friction of being seen while learning is survivable and actually profitable in terms of audience connection.
You stop fearing the unsteady voice because you have empirical evidence that it works better than the flawless delivery.
You're literally training your nervous system to tolerate the visibility that you previously avoided.
We must remind the listener of the ultimate takeaway here. Your presence grows only when you show up before you feel ready.
Only then.
If you wait for the feeling of readiness, you break the cycle of compounding courage. You revert to the false timeline of confidence, and your brand visibility stalls.
You must bypass the need for certainty and operate from a place of courageous unease.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. We've established that your audience craves the raw truth, the honest signals, and the human being behind the brand.
They absolutely do.
If your audience is currently connecting with your highly edited, safe self-venature, if they're engaging with a sanitized, perfectly lit version of your message, what incredible growth, what depth of loyalty, and what massive impact are you leaving on the table right now by hiding the actual human behind the content?
It's a profound operational question. If you are achieving baseline success while withholding your truest insights, the potential upside of deploying visibility courage is staggering.
It really is.
The bottleneck is not the market. The bottleneck is your demand for comfort.
If you're ready to show up before you feel ready, visit 365 Freedom online to join the community. This has been a 365 Freedom Strategy session.